Meet the newly single Elise Brooks.
The moment I saw my wife Elise slip her phone number to that greasy promoter at the brewery's rooftop party, I knew our marriage was as finished as last week's fish. What I didn't expect was how much fun watching it decompose would be. "Easy fix," she giggled, tossing her blonde hair like some 20-something influencer instead of a 27-year-old marketing assistant with a mortgage. I wish I'd shown up single tonight. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Chad Larkin, because of course his name was Chad, pocketed her number with the kind of smirk that screamed, "I drive a Mustang with racing stripes and think craft beer is for intellectuals." The guy looked like he'd stepped out of a Jersey Shore casting call, all gelled hair and designer jeans that probably cost more than my power tools. I stood there holding 2 IPAs, watching my wife of 3 years flirt like I was invisible. The summer evening breeze carried the scent of hops and betrayal across the rooftop of Winslow's Brewery, where half the town had gathered for their monthly party. Mike, my best friend and the bartender, caught my eye from across the crowd and raised his eyebrows in a "what the hell" expression. "Cal, honey!" Elise finally noticed me approaching, her voice pitched high with fake enthusiasm. "There you are. I was just telling Chad here about your carpentry work." "Really?" I handed her the beer she didn't deserve. "What exactly were you telling him?" Chad extended a manicured hand. "Nice to meet you, man. Your wife says you're handy with wood." The innuendo wasn't lost on me. Neither was the fact that Elise had positioned herself so Chad could look down her low-cut top. Her friends, Molly and Tara, giggled behind their drinks like teenagers watching drama unfold. "I build things that last," I said, not taking his hand. "Unlike some people." Elise's laugh was too loud, too bright. "Cal's so serious. He doesn't understand that sometimes a girl just wants to have fun." "Fun." I tasted the word like it was spoiled milk. "Is that what we're calling it?" The crowd around us had grown quiet. Mrs. Winslow, the brewery owner, watched from her perch near the bar with the sharp eyes of someone who'd seen plenty of small-town drama. Gabe, Elise's gay best friend, looked uncomfortable, nursing his wine and avoiding eye contact. "Don't be such a buzzkill," Tara chimed in, emboldened by alcohol and stupidity. "Elise is just being friendly." Friendly. I pulled out my phone, grateful I'd started recording when I saw Chad approach my wife. "Let me show you friendly." I held up the screen, playing back Elise's performance. Her voice carried clearly, "Easy fix. I wish I'd shown up single tonight." The color drained from her face as she realized what I'd captured. "Cal, you can't what? Can't record my wife publicly humiliating our marriage?" I looked around at the growing audience. "Folks, I'd like you to meet the newly single Elise Brooks. Apparently she's been advertising her availability." The silence was beautiful. Even the summer insects seemed to pause their chirping. "You're being ridiculous," Elise hissed, but her voice shook. "It was just a joke." "Here's another joke," I said, pulling out my wallet and dropping a 20 on the nearest table. "That covers her drinks and her ride home, since I'm leaving." Chad stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "Hey man, maybe you should calm down. Maybe you should shut up before I decide to get uncalm." I'm not a big guy, but 3 years of swinging hammers and hauling lumber had given me the kind of wiry strength that made smart men reconsider their options. Chad apparently wasn't smart, but he was sober enough to recognize the look in my eyes. Mike appeared at my shoulder. "Everything okay here, Cal?" "Perfect, Mike. Just taking out the trash." I looked at Elise one last time. "Don't wait up." I walked away to the sound of whispers exploding behind me like firecrackers. By the time I reached my truck, my phone was already buzzing with notifications. The small-town gossip network moved faster than fiber-optic internet. Driving home to my house, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Freedom. The weight of pretending everything was fine, of ignoring the late nights and secretive phone calls, of being the understanding husband while my wife shopped for my replacement. All of it lifted like morning fog. My phone rang. Elise. I declined the call and watched it immediately ring again, and again. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I had 47 missed calls. That's when I got my first real idea for revenge. I called our cell phone provider. Hi, I'd like to cancel a line on our family plan. Yes, I'm the account holder. The number is... Next, I called our car insurance. Elise's coverage could wait until morning to be discussed, in person, with her present. Finally, I opened our group chat, the one with all our couple friends, and posted the video with a simple caption. Available, apparently. Then I turned off my phone, cracked open a beer, and waited for the fireworks to begin. The next morning brought the kind of chaos that would make a reality TV producer weep with joy. I woke to find 17 cars parked outside my house. News travels fast in a town of 8,000 people, and apparently everyone wanted front row seats to the Brooks marriage implosion. Mrs. Henderson from next door was pretending to water plants that had been lifeless since Clinton was president. The mailman took 45 minutes to deliver what should have been a 5-minute route. Even the local stray cat seemed to be loitering with intent. My phone, once I turned it back on, had achieved what I'm pretty sure was a new record for missed communications. Texts, calls, voicemails, Facebook messages, Instagram DMs, the complete digital spectrum of small-town rubbernecking. The best part? Chad had apparently ghosted Elise sometime between midnight and dawn. According to Gabe's text, he'd switched sides faster than a politician during election season. She'd spent the night calling Chad's number and getting voicemail. The great romantic rescue had lasted exactly 0 hours. I was enjoying my coffee and the view of my impromptu audience when Elise's Honda Civic pulled up. She sat in the car for 5 minutes, probably working up the courage to face the music. When she finally emerged, she looked like she'd been hit by a truck driven by regret and loaded with consequences. "Cal, we need to talk," she said, pushing through my front door without invitation. "Do we? Because I thought you were pretty clear last night about your intentions." She looked around our living room, the furniture I'd built, the shelves I'd installed, the home we'd created together, and I watched reality hit her like a 2x4 to the face. "It wasn't what it looked like," she started, but her heart wasn't in it. We both knew exactly what it had looked like. Really? Because it looked like my wife giving her phone number to a discount Jersey Shore reject while telling him she wished she was single. I settled into my recliner, the one she'd always hated because it didn't match her Pinterest aesthetic. But hey, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe that's how married people act now. Don't be sarcastic. Don't be unfaithful. I shrugged. Seems like we're both going to be disappointed. She tried tears next. The full production, trembling lip, glistening eyes, the little catch in her voice that used to make me want to fix whatever was wrong. Now it just reminded me of bad dinner theater. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I was drunk, and I felt ignored, and you decided the solution was to shop for my replacement at a public event where everyone we know could watch." I stood up, walked to the window, and waved at Mrs. Henderson, who dove behind her zombie petunias. "Well, mission accomplished. Everyone definitely noticed. My phone's not working. That's because I canceled your line. You're single now, remember? Single people pay their own bills." The tears stopped. "You can't do that. I'm the account holder. I can do whatever I want." I turned back to face her. "Just like you could do whatever you wanted last night. Actions, consequences, it's a beautiful system." She pulled out her backup phone, an old iPhone she kept for emergencies. "Chad's not answering." Shocking. It's almost like he was only interested in easy conquest and lost interest when it got complicated. I sat back down, enjoying the show. "But don't worry, I'm sure there are other promoters out there looking for married women with commitment issues. Stop it. Stop what? Telling the truth? I thought you liked honesty. That's what you said when you told me you needed space to find yourself last month. She flinched. We both knew that conversation had been the beginning of the end, her way of testing the waters for exactly what happened last night. I want to fix this, she said, but she was looking at her phone, not at me. Fix what? Your reputation? Your marriage? Your relationship with Chad? I laughed, and it wasn't a nice sound. Because from where I'm sitting, you broke all three in one evening. That's actually impressive. My phone buzzed. Mike was texting from the brewery. Dude, you need to see this. Chad's car. I grabbed my keys. I have to go to work, real work, not the pretend kind where you flirt with clients and call it marketing. Cal, please. Please what? Please pretend last night didn't happen. Please go back to ignoring the obvious while you figure out your exit strategy. I opened the door, noting that our audience had grown to include the Kowalski twins on their bikes and old Mr. Peterson with his ancient beagle. I think we're past, please. I left her standing in our living room, surrounded by everything I'd built for us, finally understanding what she'd thrown away. The drive to Winslow's brewery took me past Chad's nightclub, a converted warehouse called Pulse that attracted college kids and adults who refused to admit they weren't college kids anymore. His precious Mustang sat in the parking lot, and even from the street I could see something was wrong with it. Mike met me at the brewery's back entrance, grinning like Christmas morning. You have to see this, man. It's beautiful. We walked over to Chad's car, and I had to admire the artistry. Someone had filled the exhaust pipe with expanding foam, glued the door locks, and left a note under the windshield wiper. Courtesy of the single life. Security cameras? I asked. Conveniently malfunctioned around midnight, Mike said. Weird how that happens. Chad emerged from his club looking like he'd slept in his clothes, which he probably had. His hair was flat on one side, his designer jeans were wrinkled, and his face had the puffy look of a man who'd discovered that other people's wives came with other people's husbands attached. What the hell? He stared at his car like it had personally betrayed him. Problem, Chad? I called out. He spun around, his face cycling through confusion, recognition, and rage in record time. You son of a bitch. Now. That's no way to talk to the husband of your new girlfriend. I walked closer, Mike flanking me like a loyal wingman. Although I hear she's having phone troubles today. Technology, right? You did this. He gestured at his car. Did what? I've been home all night, dealing with my wife's midlife crisis. Ask anyone. I had quite an audience. Chad looked like he wanted to take a swing at me, but Mike's presence and the growing crowd of onlookers kept him in check. The morning shift at the brewery had arrived, along with the early customers and the perpetually curious. This isn't over, Chad snarled. You're right, I agreed. It's just getting started. I walked away, leaving him to deal with his foam-filled exhaust and his locked doors, feeling better than I had in months. The war was just beginning, and I was finally ready to fight it. Word of Chad's automotive misfortune spread through town faster than pink eye in a daycare center. By noon, I'd received 3 new job inquiries, 2 offers to buy me lunch, and 1 marriage proposal from Mrs. Kowalski. I politely declined. She's 83 and still married to Mr. Kowalski. I was in my workshop, the converted garage behind our house, where I'd built everything from custom cabinets to children's playsets, when Elise made her second appearance of the day. This time she'd brought reinforcements. Cal, you're being unreasonable, Molly announced, strutting into my workspace like she owned it. Tara followed behind her, nodding agreement with the enthusiasm of a bobblehead doll in an earthquake. Ladies, I said, not looking up from the cherry wood I was sanding, to what do I owe this intervention? Elise made a mistake, Tara said. But you're embarrassing her. I'm embarrassing her. I set down my sandpaper and really looked at them. Molly, with her fake nails and designer handbag, married to an insurance salesman she cheated on regularly. Tara, twice divorced and proud of it, who treated relationships like a revolving door. These were Elise's advisors, her role models for married life. That's fascinating. Tell me more. You posted that video, Molly accused. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone was already talking about it. They saw it happen live. I just provided the instant replay. Elise finally spoke up from behind her human shields. I want to come home. This is your home. Your name's on the deed. I resumed sanding, the rhythmic motion soothing. Of course, your name's also on the mortgage, the utilities, the car payment, and about 15 other bills that are going to be very lonely without your income. You can't kick me out. I'm not kicking you out. I'm just not pretending everything's fine while you audition my replacements. I brushed the dust off the wood, admiring the grain. Cherry was expensive, but it lasted forever when you treated it right. Unlike some things. You want to act single? Congratulations. You get all the benefits of single life. Including paying your own phone bill, Mike added, appearing in the doorway with 2 cups of coffee. He handed me one and leaned against the workbench, clearly enjoying the show. Molly turned on him. This doesn't concern you. Sure it does. Cal's my friend. Has been for 15 years. You 3? You've been encouraging Elise to shop around for months. Mike's voice was casual, but his eyes were hard. Don't act surprised when the store finally closes. That's not... Tara started. Not what? Not exactly what happened at Jenny's birthday party when you told Elise she was too young to settle? Not what happened at the lake house when you spent the whole weekend pointing out available men? Mike sipped his coffee. Small town ladies, people talk. I looked at Elise, seeing her clearly for maybe the first time in months. The discontent, the restlessness, the way she'd been pulling away, it all made sense now. She hadn't just decided to cheat on her own. She'd had coaches. Get out, I said quietly. Cal, Elise stepped forward. All of you, get out of my workshop. You can't. I can and I am. I stood up, and something in my posture made all 3 women take a step back. This is my space. These are my tools. That's my house, built with my hands and my money. You want to play games? Fine. But you don't get to do it here. They left, but not before Molly delivered one last shot. You'll regret this, Cal. Elise is a catch. Yeah, I called after them. That's the problem. Mike waited until they were gone before speaking. You okay? Better than okay. I picked up a piece of oak, feeling its weight and potential. I'm inspired. That sounds dangerous. For them? Absolutely. That afternoon, I drove to Chad's club. Pulse was closed during the day, but I could see him through the windows, pacing around like a caged animal. His Mustang was gone, probably at the shop, getting its exhaust system replaced and its locks fixed. I parked across the street and called him. What? His voice was sharp with anger. Chad, it's Cal. We need to talk. I've got nothing to say to you. That's fine. I'll do the talking. I watched him through the window, saw him look around like he was trying to spot me. You made a mistake last night. You thought you were picking up some unhappy housewife for a quick conquest. What you actually did was interfere with my marriage. Your wife came on to me. My wife is an idiot, but she's my idiot and you're not. I started my truck, letting him hear the engine. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay away from Elise. You're going to delete her number. You're going to pretend last night never happened. Or what? Or I get creative. And Chad? You really don't want me to get creative. I hung up and drove home, already planning my next move. The expanding foam had been subtle, almost gentle. A warning shot across the bow. But if Chad wanted to escalate, I had a workshop full of tools and 30 years of small-town knowledge to draw from. I'd built this life board by board, nail by nail, and I'd be damned if I was going to let some hair gel Romeo tear it down without a fight. The war was heating up, and I was just getting started. Chad, it turned out, was dumber than a box of hammers and twice as stubborn. Instead of taking my friendly advice, he decided to double down on stupid. Thursday morning brought news that he'd been bragging at Murphy's bar about his conquest and how he was going to teach the carpenter a lesson. Murphy's bar was where the construction crews went after work, where the mechanics grabbed lunch, where real men with real jobs discussed real problems. It was not the place to brag about sleeping with someone else's wife, especially when you hadn't actually slept with her. Mike brought me the news along with my morning coffee. Johnny Kowalski was there. Says Chad's telling everyone he's not afraid of you. Is that so? I was installing new hinges on Mrs. Peterson's kitchen cabinets, a job that required precision and patience. Two qualities Chad clearly lacked. What else did he say? That you're all talk? That you hide behind tools and tricks because you're too much of a coward to face him like a man? I paused in my work. Interesting theory. Cal, don't do anything stupid. Mike, have you ever known me to do anything stupid? No, but there's a first time for everything. I finished the cabinet and stepped back to admire my work. Perfect alignment, smooth operation, built to last. Chad wants to face me like a man. I can arrange that. That evening, I made a few phone calls. First to Tommy Rodriguez at the hardware store, then to Big Jim from the construction crew, finally to my old high school buddy Dave, who now ran security at the college. By the time I was done, I had everything I needed for a proper education. Friday night, Pulse was packed with its usual crowd of 20-somethings and middle-aged desperados. I arrived at 11 when the music was loud and the drinks were flowing. Chad was in his element, strutting around in a silk shirt that probably cost more than my truck payment. He saw me coming, and his face lit up with anticipation. This was what he'd been waiting for, a chance to prove himself in front of his audience. Well, well, he said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. Look who decided to show up. Chad. I nodded politely. Nice place you got here. Thanks. Surprised to see you. Thought you might be home crying into your beer. The crowd around us was growing, sensing drama. I spotted Elise near the bar with Molly and Tara, her face pale with anxiety. She knew me well enough to recognize when I was truly dangerous. Actually, I came to apologize, I said. Chad blinked, clearly not expecting that response. Apologize? Yeah, I was out of line the other night. My wife's a grown woman. If she wants to give her number to other men, that's her choice. I shrugged, playing the part of the defeated husband. I shouldn't have taken it out on you. Chad's chest puffed out with victory. Damn right you shouldn't have. In fact, I brought you something, a peace offering. I pulled out a business card. Tommy Rodriguez at the hardware store. He's got a porta-potty rental business on the side. Thought you might need his number. What the hell would I need that for? Well, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, I figured since you're so full of shit, you might want to rent a place to store it all. The crowd erupted in laughter. Chad's face went red, then purple. You son of a bitch! He swung at me, which was exactly what I'd been hoping for. I stepped aside easily. 3 years of dodging power tools had given me good reflexes, and let his momentum carry him into the bar. He bounced off the polished wood and stumbled backward, right into the path of Big Jim, who'd been nursing a beer and waiting for his cue. Whoa there, buddy, Jim said, steadying Chad with hands the size of dinner plates. You okay? Get off me. Chad tried to push Jim away, which was like trying to move a mountain with a feather duster. Easy now. Dave appeared on Chad's other side, his security training evident in the way he controlled the situation without seeming to. Maybe you should sit down. I don't need to sit down. I need to... To what? I asked mildly. Assault me in front of 50 witnesses? In your own club? That seems like a poor business decision. Chad looked around, finally realizing he was surrounded by men who were bigger, stronger, and significantly less impressed with his silk shirt and attitude. This isn't over, He snarled. You know what? You're absolutely right. I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. It's not over. In fact, I think it's just getting interesting. I walked out of the club, leaving Chad surrounded by laughter and the kind of humiliation that sticks to a man like tar. Behind me, I could hear Elise calling my name, but I didn't turn around. The real fun was just beginning. Saturday morning brought the consequences. Chad, apparently deciding that discretion was not the better part of valor, had spent the rest of Friday night and most of Saturday telling anyone who would listen that he was going to make me pay. He'd even gone to the police, trying to file charges for vandalism over his car. Unfortunately for Chad, the police chief was Dave's uncle, and Dave had already shared the story of Friday night's entertainment. The chief, a practical man who'd known me since I was 12, suggested that Chad might want to let sleeping dogs lie. Chad, being Chad, decided to kick the dog instead. Sunday afternoon, I was in my workshop when I heard the sound of breaking glass. I looked up to see Chad standing in my driveway, a baseball bat in his hands and my truck's windshield in pieces. "How's that for creative?" he shouted. I walked out slowly, taking my time, letting him see that I wasn't afraid. Behind him, I could see Mrs. Henderson on her phone, probably calling the police, bless her nosy heart. "That's my truck, Chad. And this is my bat." He hefted it like he knew how to use it. "What are you going to do about it?" "Me? Nothing." I shrugged. "But you might want to look behind you." He turned to see half the neighborhood standing in their yards, most of them holding phones. Mrs. Peterson was recording from her porch. The Kowalski twins were live-streaming from their bikes. Even old Mr. Peterson was there with his ancient beagle, watching the show. "Smile, Chad," I said. "You're about to be famous." The sound of sirens was growing louder. Chad's face went white as he realized what he'd done, committed vandalism in front of dozens of witnesses, all of whom were recording. "You set me up," he whispered. "I didn't set you up. I just gave you enough rope to hang yourself." I gestured at the broken windshield. "And brother, you tied a beautiful knot." The police arrived to find Chad standing over the evidence of his crime, surrounded by witnesses and video proof. They arrested him with the kind of professional courtesy reserved for obvious idiots. As they loaded him into the patrol car, I walked over to the window. "Chad," I said quietly, so only he could hear. This was just the warm-up. His eyes went wide with fear, and I knew he finally understood what he was dealing with. I wasn't just some cuckolded husband looking for revenge. I was a craftsman, and I was building his destruction one piece at a time. Chad spent Sunday night in jail and Monday morning in front of a judge who was not impressed with his explanation of temporary insanity caused by marital interference. The vandalism charge stuck, along with a restraining order that kept him 50 feet away from me, my property, and my business. But the real damage wasn't legal. It was social. By Monday afternoon, the video of Chad's meltdown had made the rounds of every social media platform, group chat, and coffee shop conversation in town. He'd gone from smooth operator to laughingstock in less than 72 hours. Elise, meanwhile, had moved in with Molly temporarily, an arrangement that was straining both their friendship and Molly's marriage. Tara had distanced herself from the whole situation after her ex-husband pointed out that being associated with adultery wasn't great for her custody case. I was enjoying a peaceful Tuesday morning when Gabe showed up at my workshop with coffee and gossip. "She's miserable," he announced without preamble. "Good morning to you too, Gabe." "Elise, she's staying at Molly's, but Molly's husband is furious. Apparently he's always had a thing for Elise, and having her around is causing problems." I looked up from the rocking chair I was building, a commission from a young couple expecting their first baby. "And you're telling me this because she wants to come home." "She never left home. I never locked her out." "You know what I mean." I set down my chisel and really looked at Gabe. He was a good guy, caught in the middle of a situation he hadn't created. "What does she want, Gabe?" "To fix this. to go back to how things were. How things were was her shopping for my replacement while I pretended not to notice. I picked up the chisel again, testing its edge. That's not a marriage. That's a hostage situation. She knows she screwed up. Does she? Or does she just know she got caught? Gabe was quiet for a long moment. What would it take? For what? For you to forgive her. I considered the question seriously. What would it take? An apology? A promise to change? A guarantee that she'd never embarrass me again in front of the entire town? It would take a time machine, I said finally. And since those don't exist, we're at an impasse. Gabe, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but some things can't be fixed. Some things, once they're broken, are just broken. He left looking defeated, and I went back to work on the rocking chair. It was going to be beautiful when finished. Smooth curves, perfect balance, built to last generations. The kind of craftsmanship that took time and patience and respect for the materials. Unlike my marriage, which had been slapped together with convenience and hope, held together by habit and fear of change. Wednesday brought unexpected news. Chad's club was in financial trouble. The combination of his legal issues, the public humiliation, and the sudden drop in customers had created a perfect storm of consequences. Word was he might have to sell. Thursday brought more interesting developments. Elise had apparently tried to reconcile with Chad, only to discover that his interest in her had evaporated the moment she became more trouble than pleasure. He'd blocked her number and refused to see her. Friday brought the final piece of the puzzle. Mrs. Winslow called me into her office at the brewery. Cal, I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. Chad Larkin's club is going up for sale. The building's solid, good location, and the price is going to be very reasonable. She leaned back in her chair, studying me. I'm thinking of expanding. Maybe a restaurant, maybe event space. I'd need someone to oversee the renovation. You want me to buy Chad's club? I want us to buy Chad's club. Partners. You handle the construction and management. I handle the business side. I thought about it. The building was good bones, and the location was prime real estate. With the right vision, it could be something special. What about Chad? What about him? He'll be gone, probably back to wherever he came from, looking for his next easy mark. And Elise? Mrs. Winslow's smile was sharp. What about her? She made her choice. That weekend, I made mine. Saturday morning, I called a meeting. Not with Elise, not with Chad, but with the whole damn town. I rented the community center, put up flyers, and invited everyone to come hear about the future of downtown development. They came, Mrs. Henderson and Mr. Peterson, the Kowalski family, Big Jim and his crew, Dave and his uncle the police chief, Tommy Rodriguez from the hardware store, Mike from the brewery, even Gabe showed up. The room was packed with everyone who mattered in our little town. Elise came too, sitting in the back with Molly looking nervous and out of place. Chad didn't come. He was probably packing. I stood up in front of everyone I'd known my whole life, everyone who'd watched me grow up, go to school, learn my trade, build my reputation one job at a time. Most of you know what happened a couple weeks ago, I began. My wife decided she wanted to be single, and I decided to help her with that goal. A few chuckles from the crowd. Some of you might think I overreacted, that I should have been more understanding, more forgiving. I looked directly at Elise. Maybe you're right. Maybe a better man would have turned the other cheek. Silence now, everyone waiting. But I'm not a better man. I'm just a carpenter who builds things to last and doesn't like seeing his work torn down by people who don't understand its value. I gestured to Mrs. Winslow, who stood up beside me. Mrs. Winslow and I are buying the Pulse building. We're going to turn it into something this town can be proud of, a place where families can come, where local bands can play, where we can celebrate the things that matter. The crowd erupted in applause. This was what they'd been hoping for, The eyesore downtown finally becoming something worthwhile. But first, I continued, waiting for quiet. We need to clear out the old fixtures, the things that don't belong, that never belonged. I looked at Elise again, saw her face crumple as she understood. Some renovations require complete demolition. You can't build something new on a rotten foundation. You have to tear it all down and start over. More applause, but quieter now, more thoughtful. I want to thank everyone who supported me through this. Mike, who's been my friend since we were kids. Mrs. Winslow, who saw potential where others saw problems. All of you, who understood that sometimes standing up for yourself means standing alone. I paused, looking around the room at all the faces I'd known forever. And I want to thank my wife, Elise, for showing me what I really needed. Not someone who would settle for me, but someone who would choose me. Not someone looking for an escape route, but someone ready to build something permanent. Elise stood up abruptly and ran from the room, Molly following. I watched them go without emotion. The demolition starts Monday, I announced. The construction starts Tuesday. And by Christmas, we'll have something beautiful where something ugly used to be. The crowd rose to their feet, applauding, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride, not just in my work, but in myself. In the choice to fight back instead of roll over. In the decision to build something new instead of trying to repair something that was never worth saving. Later that evening, as I sat in my workshop planning the renovation, Mike stopped by with a beer and a grin. "So," he said, settling into the old chair I kept for visitors. "You just publicly divorced your wife, bought your wife's boyfriend's business, and announced your intention to tear down everything he built, all in one afternoon. Efficient, right? Brutal, effective, completely insane." He raised his beer in a toast. "I'm proud of you, man. It's not over yet. What else could you possibly do?" I smiled, pulling out the architectural plans I'd been working on. "Wait until you see what I'm building in its place." The plans showed a beautiful space, restaurant, event hall, community center. But more than that, they showed a future. My future. Built on the ruins of everything that had tried to tear me down. Some people build with wood and nails. Others build with words and promises. I'd learned to build with consequences. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that made you believe in new beginnings. The demolition crew was already at work on the Pulse building, tearing out the cheap fixtures and gaudy decorations that had defined Chad's vision of nightlife. I stood across the street, coffee in hand, watching 20 years of poor decisions get loaded into a dumpster. Chad himself was nowhere to be seen. Word was he'd left town Sunday night, owing money to half the businesses downtown and leaving behind nothing but bad debts and worse memories. "Satisfying?" Mrs. Winslow asked, joining me on the sidewalk. "More than I expected." "Good, because we have a problem." I looked at her. "What kind of problem?" "The Elise kind." She was right. My soon-to-be ex-wife had spent the weekend making rounds, trying to drum up sympathy and support for her version of events. She'd painted herself as the victim of a controlling husband who'd destroyed her life over a harmless flirtation. Some people were buying it. Mostly people who didn't know me well, or who had their own reasons for wanting to believe that men like me were the villains in stories like this. "What's she saying?" "That you're vindictive, that you're trying to ruin her reputation out of spite, that she made one mistake and you're making her pay forever." One mistake. I tasted the words. "Is that what we're calling it?" She's also saying she wants to reconcile, that she's learned her lesson and wants to work things out. I looked at the demolition crew, watching them strip away everything that had made the building what it was. Soon, it would be just bones and potential again. "What do you think I should do?" Mrs. Winslow studied me with sharp eyes. "I think you should do whatever lets you sleep at night. But I also think you should know that she's not done fighting." She was right. Tuesday brought proof that Elise had decided to escalate rather than retreat. I was at the building site consulting with the contractor about load-bearing walls when she showed up with an audience. Not just Molly this time, but a small crowd of supporters, women from her book club, a few co-workers, even her mother, who'd driven down from Portland to provide moral support. "Cal, we need to talk," she announced loudly enough for the construction crew to hear. "We're divorced, Elise. We don't need to do anything. We're separated, not divorced, and I'm not giving up on us." The construction crew had stopped working, sensing drama. I could see phones coming out, ready to record whatever happened next. "There is no us," I said calmly. "There hasn't been for months, maybe years." "That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you asked about my work? When's the last time you seemed happy to see me come home? When's the last time you acted like you wanted to be married to me instead of just married to the idea of being married?" She faltered, and I could see her supporters exchanging glances. "I was going through a rough patch," she said finally. "People make mistakes." "People do make mistakes. They forget anniversaries. They leave dishes in the sink. They accidentally double-book dinner plans." I stepped closer, letting her see the certainty in my eyes. "They don't give their phone numbers to other men at public events while telling them they wish they were single." "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that. I have video." The crowd was growing now. Word had spread through town that the Brooks drama was having another act, and people were arriving to watch the show. "You're embarrassing me," Elise hissed. "I'm embarrassing you?" I laughed, and it echoed off the building walls. "Elise, you embarrassed yourself. I just refused to be embarrassed with you." Her mother stepped forward, a stern woman who'd never liked me much. "Calvin, you're being cruel. Mrs. Patterson, with all due respect, your daughter is 27 years old. She made adult choices, and now she gets to live with adult consequences. She loves you." "No, she doesn't. She loves the security I provide, the house I built, the reputation I earned. She loves the idea of being married to someone stable while she shops around for someone exciting." I looked at Elise, seeing her clearly for what felt like the first time in years. "But she doesn't love me. If she did, she wouldn't have spent months pulling away. She wouldn't have listened to friends who told her she could do better. She wouldn't have given her number to a stranger while telling him she wished she was single. Cal, and you know what? That's okay. Because I don't love her either, not anymore. I love who I thought she was, who she pretended to be, but that person doesn't exist." The silence was complete now. Even the construction crew had stopped pretending to work. I love the woman who used to laugh at my jokes, who used to be proud of what I built with my hands, who used to act like coming home to me was the best part of her day. I shook my head. But that woman disappeared months ago, replaced by someone who was bored with her life and looking for an exit strategy. Elise was crying now, but they weren't the manipulative tears from before. These were real, raw, the kind that came from hearing truths you'd been avoiding. "So no, Elise, we don't need to talk. We don't need to work things out. We don't need to try again." I gestured at the building behind me, where the demolition crew was loading the last of Chad's fixtures into the dumpster. "Some things can't be renovated. Sometimes you have to tear it all down and build something completely new." I turned to walk away, then stopped and looked back. "The divorce papers will be ready next week. Don't contest them. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Just sign them and move on with the single life you wanted so badly." The crowd parted as I walked through them, and I could hear the whispers starting behind me. By evening, the story would be all over town. By tomorrow, it would be settled truth. I spent the rest of the week working on the renovation plans, losing myself in the details of creating something beautiful from something broken. The restaurant would seat 80. The event space could handle wedding receptions or business meetings. The community room would be perfect for book clubs, hobby groups, or town meetings. It was going to be everything the old Pulse had never been: welcoming, family-friendly, built to last. Friday afternoon, Gabe stopped by with news. She signed them, he said without preamble. The divorce papers? This morning. No contest, no demands, no drama. She's moving back to Portland with her mother. I nodded, feeling something that might have been relief. She wanted me to tell you something. What? That she's sorry. Not for getting caught, not for the consequences. Sorry for not being the person you deserved. I considered that. What about Chad? Gone. Heard he's in Florida now, trying the same routine on a different crowd. And Molly and Tara? Molly's getting divorced too. Turns out her husband had been keeping track of her affairs for months, just waiting for the right moment. Tara's back on dating apps, looking for husband number 3. The cleanup was complete then. All the debris cleared away, ready for something new to be built. Saturday morning, I stood in the empty shell of what had been Pulse, looking at the bare walls and concrete floors. In 6 months, this would be the heart of downtown again. People would come here to celebrate anniversaries, birthday parties, graduations. Families would make memories in the space where Chad had peddled cheap thrills and false promises. Mrs. Winslow found me there, studying the architectural drawings spread across a folding table. "Any regrets?" she asked. I thought about it seriously. Did I regret the public confrontations, the calculated humiliations, the systematic destruction of everything that had threatened what I'd built? No, I said finally. I regret waiting so long to fight back. And Elise? I regret marrying someone I didn't really know. I regret ignoring the signs that she was unhappy. I regret trying to fix something that was broken from the start. I rolled up the drawings, ready to head home. But I don't regret defending myself when she decided I was disposable. Good, because what you did took guts. A lot of men would have just rolled over and taken it. A lot of men don't know how to build things that last. I walked home through the downtown I'd known my whole life, past the hardware store where I'd bought my first tools, past the brewery where I'd met my future business partner, past the houses where I'd learned my trade working summers for contractors who taught me that good work was its own reward. At home, I sat in my workshop surrounded by the tools and materials of my trade. Tomorrow, I'd start building something new, not just a restaurant or event space, but a future. My future, built on my terms, with materials I could trust. Some people might say I was too harsh, too unforgiving, too willing to destroy instead of repair. But those people had never built anything that mattered, never invested years of their lives in something only to watch it get casually torn down by people who didn't understand its value. I was a carpenter. I built things to last. And when something threatened what I'd built, I defended it with the same care and precision I'd used to create it in the first place. The war was over. I'd won. But more importantly, I'd learned something about myself. I was stronger than I'd known, more capable of standing alone than I'd ever imagined. And that knowledge was worth more than any marriage built on compromise and pretense. I turned off the workshop lights and headed inside, ready to start planning tomorrow's work. There was always something to build, something to create, something to make better than it was before. That's what craftsmen do. We take raw materials and turn them into something beautiful, something useful, something that lasts. I'd just finished the most important project of my life.